A wonderful day to each and everyone. So we have inflation for today's discussion. Wherein inflation is the increase in the amount of money needed to purchase same amount of goods and services. Inflation also results in a decrease in purchasing power. So anong ibig sabihin ng definition ni inflation? Yung inflation daw, ito daw yung reason kung bakit tumataas yung presyo ng mga bilihin ng goods and services natin. Siyempre kapag tumaas ang presyo ng mga bilihin, you need ng mas malaking amount of money. Kailangan mo ng mas maraming pera para syempre ma-purchase yung mga goods and services na yon. And this results to decrease in purchasing power. Ano namang ibig sabihin nun? Kung dati, your lola or your nanay is telling you na ako nga dati 5 pesos lang ang baon, meron pa akong nababalik na sukle. Nakakabili na ako doon ng inumin at saka ng pangmeryenda. So ngayon, ikaw, 50 pesos na ang baon, hihingi ka pa ulit, wala pang sukle, tama? Kasi syempre nagkaroon na ng inflation. Gaano na ba katanda si lola mo o si mama mo? So, meron ng inflation na nangyari. Yung 5 pesos nila dati na baon, sa panahon ngayon, hindi mo na or hindi ka na makakabili ng inumin at ng pangmeryenda sa 5 pesos. Candy na lang ngayon yung 5 pesos kasi bumaba na o nagkaroon na ng decrease in purchasing power. So kung dati, 'di ba, napakalaking amount na nung 100 pesos, pero ngayon yung 100 pesos ay parang maliit na amount na rin lang. Parang barya na din lang dun sa iba. Okay? Kasi ang taas na ng mga bilihin, ang taas na ng presyo ng mga meron tayo sa market. Okay? So that is inflation. Kay inflation, ano yung mga formulas na gagamitin natin? We have I. I still stands for the real interest rate, the interest we are using before in the previous topic. We have is equal to 1 plus the inflation adjusted rate all over 1 plus the average inflation minus 1. This is how you are going to solve for the interest. How about if you want to solve for the value of the market or inflation adjusted rate? You have I plus F plus I times F. Okay, so dalawa lang naman silang formula that you need to remember para sa inflation natin. So, written here below kung ano ba yung mga tawag sa mga letters na nasa formula. We have I for the real interest rate, I sub F for the market or inflation adjusted rate kung saan the rate that takes inflation into account. Then F is the inflation rate o minsan ang nasa problem ay average inflation rate. That is still F. Wherein this is the rate of change in the value of currency. Okay? So, ngayon, let's have our first example na. So, let's see how we are going to use this formula na meron tayo. Okay? So, for the first example, we have at 2,000 pesos in 2 years has an average inflation rate of 6%. And the real interest rate of money is 10%. Now, we need to determine the inflation-adjusted interest rate. Ano ba yung inflation-adjusted rate? Hanapin dito sa taas. Tingnan dito sa taas. The inflation-adjusted rate ay si I sub F. What is the formula again for the I sub F? This one. So let us copy the formula. We have I sub F is equal to the interest plus the average inflation plus the interest times the average inflation. Diba we have here naman sa problem yung interest rate natin at saka yung average inflation rate, tama? So let's put it in the formula. We have interest rate is how many? We have 10%, the real interest rate. So in decimal, that is 0.10. Plus, how many is the inflation rate or the average inflation rate? We have 6% or 0.06. Then we add the product of the interest and the inflation rate natin. And it will give us what is the value for the market or the inflation adjusted rate. We have 0.166, but still, this is rate of interest. So, our final answer ay dapat naka-express in percent. So, in percent, that is equal to 16.6%. And that is our final answer for example number 1. Okay? Then, moving on to our second example, let's try another example naman. So, we have here a company invests 10,000 pesos today to be repaid in 5 years in one lump sum at 12% compounded annually. If the rate of inflation is 3% compounded annually, how much profit is relieved over 5 years? So, nag-invest daw yung kumpanya ng 10,000 piso ng 10,000 pesos. Ngayon, nag-invest siya ngayon. Ngayon, yung 10,000 pesos na ini-invest niya, babalik sa kanya yun ng buo plus yung kinita after 5 years. So, magkasama na yon, okay? Kung magkano man yung pera niya after 5 years, ibibigay sa kanya yon ng lump sum, ng buo. 12% compounded annually. So, the problem, ang gusto niya lang malaman is how much profit, magkano yung kinita mo doon sa investment mo. So, in order to know kung magkano ba yung kinita mo, syempre we need to know magkano ba yung in-invest mo after 5 years. Or we can say magkano yung future amount or future value ni investment na 10,000 after 5 years. So, we need to know the value of the future worth. Tama? Yung F natin. But before getting the value of the future, we need the interest. So, kunin muna natin yung interest rate ng pera natin. So, we can use the formula of the inflation-adjusted rate. We have here, the inflation-adjusted rate is 12%. So, we have 0.12. Interest is I pa rin. Kasi ito nga yung hahanapan natin ng value kasi kakailanganin natin siya to determine yung future amount ng investment. The inflation rate is 3% or 0.03 plus the interest times 0.03. Our interest is equal to 0.08738. Okay? So, we have 738. So, ito, pwedeng hindi muna natin siya express into percent kasi hindi naman siya talaga yung tinatanong sa problem. Hinanap lang natin siya kasi gagamitin natin siya sa problem. Okay? Sa solution natin. So, now, we already have the value for the interest rate. Ano nang gagawin natin ngayon? We can now solve for the future value of our investment. So, we have F is equal to P times 1 plus I raised to positive N. Bakit ito yung gagamitin natin formula? This is the formula for compound interest. Kasi, di ba dito sa problem, the investment of 10,000 pesos is isang beses lang naman nangyari. Single payment lang siya. It is not a series of investment naman. Kasi if it is a series of investment, kapag equal amount, let's say every year nag-i-invest ka ng 10,000 pesos, that is annuity. So, ang gagamitin mong formula to solve for the future value is annuity. Or kung di kaya ang series of payment or investment mo ay increasing, halimbawa every year, naghuhulog ka ng 10,000, then nag-i-increase siya ng 5,000 every year. So, that is gradient. So, gradient naman ang gagamitin mong formula. Pero here, in our problem, for example, number 2, we have a single investment of 10,000. Isang beses lang tayo nag-invest. Kaya ang gagamitin natin formula to solve for the future value is si compound interest. Okay? Gets? So, let's continue our solution. We have F is equal to how much is the investment or the principal? 10,000 pesos. Times the interest plus, ilan ang ating interest nga na nakuha? 0.08738. Then, ilan yung kanyang exponent? We have raised to 5. Bakit? Kasi 5 years bago bumalik yung investment mo. Okay? So, the value of our F or the future amount of your investment is 15,202.209 pesos. This is not the final answer pa. Bakit? Kasi this is the future amount. The problem wants to know the profit lang naman, magkano yung kinita. So, how are you going to solve for the value of the profit? Magkano ba yung kinita niya? So, we have profit is equal to, syempre, yung future value nung pera mo na ininvest, which is 15,202.209, ibawas mo doon or i-minus mo, magkano ba yung ininvest mo? 10,000. So, we will know kung magkano yung kinita niya talaga. So, profit is equal to 5,202.209 pesos. So, ito lang yung amount na kinita nung investment mo. Okay? So, done yung solution for example number 2. So, again, you can use the idea or the principles of compound interest, annuity, or gradient. You need to analyze the problem. Ano ba yung mga payments or yung mga investment na given sa problem? Is it a single payment or a series of payment? Okay? So, we have here another example, which is an agent of a real estate company stated that a house he sold in 1980 for 37,000 was sold by the buyer for 90,000 in 1990. If the increase in price is due solely to inflation, determine the average rate of inflation between 1980 and 1990. So, ano ang sabi sa problem? Meron daw isang agent na nakapagbenta ng bahay noong 1980. Ang benta niya lang dun sa bahay is 37,000. Ngayon, noong 1990, nabalitaan niya na binenta daw nung buyer nung nakabili yung bahay. Magkano ang benta niya? 90,000. So, mas mataas kung magkano nila nabili yung bahay. Tama ba? Kung yung increase daw sa presyo ay dahil lamang sa inflation, ano daw kaya ang value ng average rate of inflation na nangyari between 1980 and 1990? So that is, isosolve natin, syempre. So we have here, ano ba yung mga given sa atin? Is it a single payment or a series of payment? So isang beses lang naman, so single payment. So we are going to use the compound interest. So, we have F is equal to P times 1 plus interest raised to ilang taon? Raised to N. Okay? Pero, ang sabi kasi dito, if the increase in price is due solely to inflation, inflation lamang ang nakaapekto daw doon sa pagtaas ng presyo. So, we can let the interest as the average inflation rate. Okay? So, halip na ay yung ilalagay natin or gagamitin natin, F na lamang. Gets? Then, we supply the given values dito sa formula natin. Ilan yung future? Siyempre, si 90,000. Bakit si 90,000? Kasi ito ay amount noong 1990. Then, si 37 is 1980. Diba mas nauna si 1980 kaysa kay 1990? Tama? Di si 90,000 ang future, then si 37,000 ang present amount. Then we have 1 plus F or the inflation rate na hinahanap natin raised to ilan ang exponent ngayon. So we want to know the average rate of inflation between 1980 and 1990. Ilang years ang pagitan nila? So, we have 1990 minus 1980, that is equal to 10 years. So, ano ang atin ngayong exponent? We have an exponent of 10. Okay? So, 10 ilalagay mo dito. Then, the value of F or the inflation rate is equal to 0.09296, or in percent, we have here, ayan, we cannot convert it in percent, so I will just manually convert it. So we have F is equal to 9.296%. 6%. And this is the average inflation rate na nangyari doon sa inyong problem or doon sa example natin between 1980 and 1990. Okay? So, ito na yan. Kasi ang sabi lang naman sa problem is that increase in price is due solely to inflation. Okay? So, example number 3, again, is the last example for inflation.